Let's start off with the big one for the boys. $1 million, grade 1, mile and an eighth on the main track. This was the field for the Santa Anita Derby. On paper, coming in, 2-horse race. Justify for Bob Baffert. And then for Mick Ruiz, you had Bolt Doro. Justify was the unknown, considering he needed to prove that he could handle the hiking class and beat the best of the best. Bolt Doro, you already knew that he could do it, but the question was, is he as talented as a horse like Justify? It was a 2-horse race coming in. In all actuality, it was only a 1-horse race. Michael Rona with the stretch run of the Grade 1 Santa Anita Derby.
Justify reaching the top of the stretch. Back in third is Core Beliefs, then in Stilled Regard, Pepe Tonio. Justify leading past the 8th pole. He's a couple of lengths in front. Bolt Doro is closing on the inside. It's Justify by 3/4 of a length. Bolt Doro trying ever so hard, but Justify, another exhilarating exhibition by the supremely gifted athlete. He's on a dizzy...
4-5 favorite Justify gets the job done in his graded stakes debut. Pays $3.80 on top. Bolt Doro runs second, $2.20 to place. And the number 7 Core Beliefs, a very good effort from him to run third, $4 to show. $1 exacta comes back $2.70. 50-cent trifecta, 637. $9.80. The 10-cent superfecta, 6371. $2.77. Justify is unbeaten from 3 lifetime starts. He has $666,000 in career earnings. Owned by China Horse Club, Head of Plains Partners, LLC, Starlight Racing, and Windstar Farm. Trained by Bob Baffert, bred by John D. Gunther in Kentucky. Ridden to victory by Mike Smith. And you see the pedigree at the bottom of the horse card. He's by Scat Daddy out of a Ghost Zapper mare named Stage Magic. A gaudy 107 Beyer speed figure for Justify in his 3rd lifetime start. A Timeform US rating of 132. He came home in 12-3 for his final 1/8 of a mile. Boy, this horse, on paper, he's done some things that are uncommon. You don't see horses in their first 3 lifetime starts earn 3 triple-digit Beyers, and really doing it on 3 different circumstances, or in 3 different circumstances, proper English. First time sprinting, second time on a wet track going 2 turns, and then against Grade 1 company going a mile and an eighth on a fast track. There's not a lot to knock about this horse. I tweeted, somebody had asked me a question on Twitter and asked, what did you think of the Santa Anita Derby? I had only watched it once at the time, and I said, you know, I wasn't blown away by anything. Watching it back a couple more times, I'm not overly blown away, but I also am not sitting here just trying to be defiant and knocking this horse. There is nothing to knock about Justify, in my opinion, perhaps other than a lack of seasoning. He doesn't have a huge foundation. He's going to have 4 weeks going into a 1.25-mile race, but based on everything that he's done, and he looks like an absolute tank out on the racetrack, I don't have any knocks against this horse, other than ultimately price as well. And price is the end-all, be-all. That is the guide for you going forward as a gambler. He's going to be the favorite for the Kentucky Derby on 3 lifetime starts, but for good reason, based on what he's done on the track. He's beat arguably one of the best horses in training for his sort of age group and his generation in Bolt Doro, who we'll get to momentarily. He's done it in different fashions. He's done it from slightly off the pace. He's done it outright on the lead. For me, the reason I had said this didn't impress me too much is because I stand by this. I think this race was handed to him. When he didn't take any heat early on, and I understand, you know, you can look at the fractions and they're legitimate enough, particularly if you believe that the racing surface at Santa Anita on Saturday was a little bit on the dull side. 23-4, 47-4, 12-3, 37 for the mile, and he came home and finished it in 49-3. He walked on the front end. He was 3 lengths clear at the half-mile call, half-mile into the race. So it's not like he took any sort of heat throughout. And I have to be honest, he's supposed to kick away nicely if he's as talented as everybody has made him out to be. I have no knock other than things are going to be a heck of a lot more difficult for him the first Saturday in May than they were the first Saturday in April, because things just seemed to work out beautifully. And it was almost as if everyone was resigned to the fact that he was just better than they were. The connections and the riders and everyone included said, go ahead, win your Grade 1. We'll run our race and take our shot. Justify is a very, very talented horse. Does he deserve to be the favorite in the Kentucky Derby? On a speed figure standpoint, yes. No question about it. From an experience standpoint and from a gambling standpoint strictly, I don't know if I would be running to steal one of Jonathan Kinchin's lines. I don't think I'd be cutting people in line to bet this horse at 5-2 at Churchill Downs on Cinco de Mayo. As far as Bolt Doro is concerned, a 102 Beyer and a 129 Timeform US rating. Those numbers alone make him a contender in the Kentucky Derby. Came home in 12-4, just a shade under 13 seconds flat. So he didn't run as brilliantly or as fast as Justify did. But I think considering the way the race was run, coming from 3 lengths off of it, making up a little bit of ground going into the far turn, Javier was all over him on the far turn, trying to stay with Justify, and he couldn't do it. And Justify drew away from him down the lane. I think the dynamics of the race didn't help him. But I have to be honest, it kind of felt like that's how they wanted to play this, where if this was nothing more than a means to an end, you knew you were already in the starting gate, let Justify go out there. Bolt Doro's already a Grade 1 winner. And you know what? If you think that you can get the better of him 4 weeks from now, I can't knock or I can't argue with the sort of philosophy or the tactics. This is being recorded on Monday afternoon. There are people that are running for the hills and panicking because Javier Castellano is not going to ride Bolt Doro in the Kentucky Derby. He is committed to ride Audible the first Saturday in May for Todd Pletcher. There are whispers. Who knows who's going to ride Bolt Doro? Sounds like it might be Victor Espinoza, but you're going to want to stay tuned to live.drf.com and obviously all of our correspondents on Twitter and see what the latest happenings are there. I thought this was a good effort from Bolt Doro, but maybe he's not as talented as Justify. Maybe Justify is a special horse. I don't know. I think it's still too early to tell, but at the same time, this was a pretty sound beating. The good news is, if you're still a believer in Bolt Doro, it's very unlikely that Justify is going to pull the trip that he did on Saturday 4 weeks from now. There's going to be someone that goes and pushes him early on, whether it's a cheaper horse or whether it's a horse of quality. Justify is going to have to work harder than he did on Saturday 4 weeks from now. And maybe that's enough to make up the difference in that final margin of 3 lengths between Justify and Bolt Doro. I'm not sure. We'll find out right now. I think the better horse probably is Justify. And coming in, I was on Bolt Doro. I thought he was the more talented and the more seasoned horse. But now after this race, even with the dynamics, I do wonder. Maybe Justify is simply just a better horse than Bolt Doro is. Core Beliefs, very nice horse considering this was a lot thrown at him in a short amount of time as well. You have to make note that the top 3 finishers were 1, 2, 3, basically the entirety of the race. I thought he was very, very good in here. I would like them to sort of take time with him. Don't throw him back into the deep end. I think this is a nice horse for Peter Urton, and I think there could be bigger and better things for him down the road. I would just hate for him to have his brains bashed in too many times against the best of the best. Instilled regard, my son, disappointed that he could not get there. But again, with the way this race was run, I didn't think he had a chance in hell coming from way out of it. But unfortunately, he was on the bubble going in. He's on the bubble coming out. He would not be in the body of the field right now. And Jerry Hollendorfer has already said he is off the Derby trail. They'll point to something in California. The story of this race was Justify and Bolt Doro. The story coming out of this race is Justify and Bolt Doro. We'll find out which one ends up being the better horse going forward. But if we're just looking at it for what has happened already to date, Justify has done things that are very uncommon for any racehorse, no matter age, no matter sex, no matter distance. He has earned 3 triple-digit Beyer speed figures in 3 lifetime starts, and he's a Grade 1 winner already. I'm feeling a little bit like he's Bodemeister again, but it feels like he's Hickory. It feels like this is a big boy that he just continues to figure things out. And he's also still a little bit on the green side. He was a little bit green, a little late with the lead change. The notion that there could be a forward move in him is startling. Very, very scary to think that maybe you're coming up on a 110 or a 115 kind of Beyer speed figure for a race like the Kentucky Derby. We'll find out. One thing at a time. Let's hope he comes back and everything is good to go. He trains well, trains forward leading into the first Saturday in May at Churchill Downs. He's in the best hands with Baffert and Smith. Justify wins the Grade 1 Santa Anita Derby with a 107 Beyer speed figure and a 132 Timeform US rating.